we're about to share with you about the Blockshow, unchaining the Singapore story, growth of a local ecosystem. Now, Singapore's growing blockchain ecosystem started with humble beginnings, even before the buzz and boom of crypto in 2017. So for the very first time on stage, we unpack 3 Singapore startup stories that are closely intertwined despite having different business focuses. In just a bit, you will be hearing about their ups and downs, challenges and successes over the years, and how they got to where they are right now. Our moderator for this session is Kay Lum from the Can, and our speakers include Shaun Djie, co-founder and chief operating officer, Digix, Yusho Lim, Coinhako, as well as Tianwei Liu from Xfers. Let's welcome them.
Hi, morning everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the first session of the day, so let's start the day with a bang, right? I have 3 esteemed speakers with me today. So I'm Kay, your moderator for the session, and we have Yusho from Coinhako, and then we have also Tianwei from Xfers and Shaun from Digix. I think we all, as the MC has mentioned, Singapore has come a long way when it comes to blockchain, and you guys, are basically like the OGs of the ecosystem, right? And I would love to hear your opinion on how would you describe where blockchain is right now in Singapore, and I mean, how does it compare to the rest of the world and to a certain extent Southeast Asia?
Okay, I'll start. So very good morning for all listeners tuning in here from Singapore. So my name is Shaun. I'm the founder of Digix, as well as the founder of the Ethereum Singapore Meetup Group, an Ethereum-based meetup that has been around since 2015. So I would say that in Singapore here, we have a good blend of both startups, MNCs, banks, financial institutions, as well as regulators coming into play. I do think that the blockchain space in Singapore is very mature at the moment right now. And it's definitely primed for a lot more greater things to come in next few years from now, with the whole new licensing scheme that will be coming up. The whole space will become more legitimate, which I think is always good for investors alike, or even for retail to be getting involved with.
Hi. Sure, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Yusho, CEO of Coinhako. We are Southeast Asian focused crypto gateway, and we're based in Singapore. I've been in the crypto space since 2014. So I'll say Singapore is a hub. It could be a hub for trade, finance, travel, technology. Singapore's primarily a small nation with little or no natural resources, but we have high concentration of we have a strong talent pool. As a business hub, it's a super friendly place for us to land into Asia, get into Singapore, and then springboard into the rest of Southeast Asia. So if you zoom into our local crypto system, I don't think there's any place in the world with so many projects, exchanges, trading shops, and other blockchain businesses operating locally, right? And I guess Singapore has been coined a business hub, and a subset of it is the blockchain industry. And I don't think this is a accidental occurrence, right? We have a strong local system, backed by guys like Shaun, who runs Ethereum meetups. We have guys like Tribe Accelerator, who really tries to gel all the crypto blockchain ecosystem and match us together with like government bodies and big enterprises. And it's very, very strongly supported by the people and the government. So, and it's clearly a differentiator from the rest of the world, and which is why I think we are clearly ahead of most places. And I think the biggest piece we are lacking right now, it's the to be a global powerhouse, is the collaborativeness of the banks. I think once that piece is in, I think Singapore is well positioned to be a global fintech hub.
Tianwei, I see you nodding vigorously. Yes.
Hey, hi everyone. Good morning. My name is Tianwei. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Xfers. So Xfers is a payment infrastructure company that is focused on accelerating the growth of digital business across Southeast Asia. We are MES licensed major payment institution, and we are currently focused on helping our clients with digital payment acceptance, fund disbursement, and providing wallet services across both Singapore and Indonesia. So we have been very fortunate, I would say, that we are not really fully a blockchain company or crypto company. We're more of a supporting role players from day one. So since our founding days in 2015, 2016, we've been very fortunate that the crypto and blockchain community has adopted us in some sense, and have a strong foothold among our client base from day one. And it's still a significant part of our client base today, right? So in some sense, I would say Xfers have grown over the years together with the crypto and blockchain community as a supporting role. And in that sense, we have been seeing how this industry has been evolving over the last 4 or 5 years, right? And I will probably put in the most, to really summarize it, is the committee and also the whole industry have matured over the last couple of years, right? Where initially most of the client base that we've been dealing with are more into just trading, it might be speculative purposes or be investment purposes. But over the last few years, we start to see more innovation relating to more day-to-day use cases, right? Where insurance tech is coming in and more towards the space that recently we're seeing DeFi space blooming, and that's something that is really, really interesting for what we've been seeing over the years, right? And also the demographic have also changed. I think if you start to look at the maybe the post the 2017 era, I think we as a payment partner, a lot of our exchanges has been pretty worried because we see a lot of influx of client base that might not be very educated in terms of what are they actually purchasing, which always is a major challenge from our banking partners and also our regulators, which we have to play a strong custodian role to ensure everything's being properly done, right? And I think scams are widespread, and it is still a bit of ongoing then. But right now, I think we have seen over from the KYC processes and also our client base coming in that the age group is definitely some in a space that we are much more comfortable with right now. And if you really just ask a general audience out there, I think most of them, a typical Singaporean, can give you a pretty decent understanding of what is blockchain and what actually they are purchasing, right? And that is super exciting to us, right? Because as you can see, I think the last 9 months, I think most of the inbound requests that we are coming in are more slowly evolving towards the DeFi space. And the excitements around that space and the knowledge the speakers or the people who are talking about it that have about the domain they're talking about is very encouraging. And I think that's where Singapore is poised to be the right position, right? Because we have about 200 plus, I last counted, like blockchain related projects, company, investment firms just based out of Singapore. And as a Southeast Asia as a hub, this is, well, so I say, a perfect place to start a blockchain company. And MES has been super supportive and nurturing. So this is where I think the future is exciting about it.
Tianwei, I think Tianwei touched on some of the challenges that when you guys first started, right? So I'm curious about what is often misunderstood about the term blockchain and crypto, or what is the biggest misconception of your industry? Shaun, would you like to go first?
Sure, yeah. So as a company, Digix, we tokenize physical metal, physical bullion, which is a very traditional asset class, right? So in the early days when I was meeting with investors or even customers alike, when we explain our product, that it's a very traditional kind of like asset class that's related to the idea of a safe haven, that's related to thousands of years of store of value, right? People came to understand that, it's a very ordinary kind of like thing we're looking at. And then when you put blockchain and crypto into the mix, that kind of changes the whole picture here. Blockchain and crypto kind of have been associated with the idea of lacking of real world use cases, taboo money, overhype back in the early days. I wouldn't say that the case has resolved even for today, but I would say it's much lesser right now as compared to maybe a couple of years ago when we saw the whole initial coin offering kind of hype, and a lot of people kind of lost savings and monies in that whole process. But I guess that's fundamental to an ecosystem growth at the very early days of its own beginnings, which you need to go through periods of cleansing or even purge to get the bad actors out of the system. So I think in the early days, people when they hear blockchain and crypto, they kind of associate itself with a lot of bad connotations. Fast forward over the years, I think the asset class has become a lot more institutionalized. Companies like like MicroStrategy or even Square in the US have been getting involved in the idea of owning some form of this as digital assets just to sort of like rebalance their portfolio. I think the world is kind of changing in a perspective of like looking at it as a form of a new economy out there. That's mostly for the crypto side of things. For blockchain, Singapore as a hub for like education, for healthcare, I think you're seeing the benefits of having all these different kind of like foundations pouring money into creating pilots that would help improve these sectors, whether they're going to be transportation, education, or even healthcare. That's a good kind of like overflowing effect that's been coming into the space. So I think that the understanding has changed over the years, moving a lot from a very negative stance into a positive one, that we're seeing more investors pouring money in, more central bank kind of like initiatives. So I think it's definitely a good improvement over the last couple of years.
Yusho, what do you think?
Okay, so this is coming from a exchange wallet perspective. So Coinhako, we transact quite a bit of local volume. So common misconception, I guess, is crypto transactions are anonymous. And I think this is clearly a false assumption, as crypto like Bitcoin has all the transactions on the public ledger, which anybody anywhere can view online. But back then it could be semi-true. When, let's say, 2012, 2014, that era where forensic tools were not readily available. But today, transactions are monitored in a similar or even more advanced way than traditional finance. And government organizations also do establish relationships with major exchanges, forensic tool providers to track these illicit activities online. So I think case in point, we have worked with local authorities to save billions of dollars of local scam money. And I think over the next couple of years, the more data points we have, I think the smarter our scam detection pickup rate gets. And I think this will apply across the whole industry, and eventually, I guess over the years, people will stop. They'll start saying, "Oh yeah, crypto transactions are no longer anonymous."
I have like the three of you together on the same stage today, right? So I guess I would really like to understand, because you guys, blockchain and crypto is often operating in a gray area, right? So I would really love to understand, like when you guys started out in the industry, like probably more than 5 years ago, how do you navigate through all the gray areas when it comes to regulation? Because I guess you all would agree with me that when it comes to innovation, regulators are always playing catch up, right? So like, what would be your advice as well, to people who intend to get into this space? Let's go with Tianwei first.
I think this is usually a space where, as a startup guy, as an entrepreneur, I would like to share that, where there's like so-called crisis and problems, this is where, waiting for a solution itself, right? And that's where, as a startup, you have opportunity there. And usually, I think that's what, we as startup companies, our mission is around, right? We're here to solve problems, right? If it's a space that, everything is perfect and there's no problem here, there's not much opportunity for companies like us to exist, right? And I think since our founding days and stuff, like I said, the company's focus has been, mission from day one has been focused on accelerating financial access. So it just happened so that, we saw that a lot of demand and a lot of needs coming from the blockchain community in our early days. And we have been very fortunate to be able to grow with them. And how we have seen this is that, I think for space that our regulators and our banking partners that are not very familiar with, I think a lot of these things take a lot of education and a lot of time, right, to actually explain to them based on first principle, right? I think one of my co-founders, Samson, and then our head of compliance and legal always tell you guys that some of the things that we do over here is always on the cutting edge, leading edge, right? Because this is something that no one that we can copy from or get a template or a playbook from, right? A lot of these regulations, we are looking at it for the first time. We have to analyze it, and at the same time, we're trying to apply practical ways of implementing it, right? Because liquidating and actually having a legal clause is a different thing, right? So actually able to actually implement some of the rules and stuff and talking to our banking partner and explaining to them what are the limits of technology and where are the areas that what we are really doing. I think I will just follow up what Yusho have said, right? Over the years, I think the misconception a lot of time is that blockchain crypto, the first thing that our banking partners is always thinking about is like money laundering, terrorist financing. But I think in actual fact, it's not really that easy. And technology has picked up, and over the years, we have proven to our banking partners and our regulators that this is possible, right? We have invested into technology. We have shown them, every step of the way, how are we implementing certain protection measure based on first principle, right? Go back to what are they really concerned about, understanding the space better, and then allowing them to, see our track record of actually doing that. Some of these things really take time. I think that's why I think over the years that we have been around, and then a lot of the players have been around, is for those guys that have been sticking there and actually not here to make a quick buck, right? I think that's what is really important for a lot of our banking partners and also regulators here, right? They're very afraid. You're just a company that just come in, fly by night, and then you just do some scam and you disappear, and then they are left holding on to the cup, right? Which is like the situation that's on the ground, and that's what we have proven that we are not, right? We have been here from day one. We've been working with them very closely. Like, we step up. Eventually, we became a major payment institution. We regulated just the same as a lot of our financial institution partners. So I think that is the space for that can be attempted. And I think today, we are in a much better position. Of course, there are other problems. So if it's a entrepreneur or startup looking to enter that stage, happy to have a chat, share what we have learned and work together closely. I think that's where the community is actually heading towards. I would say, I think the space is still in its infancy, and a lot more conversations happens, right? Because the more people that understand what this is about, the better will it for the industry as a whole.
Patience and strong active engagement. Yusho, what do you think?
I can't disagree with that. We've been in the space together. I think when Xfers first started, we were one of their core partners, right? We've been supporting each other past couple of years. But yeah, I think I agree with Tianwei. As a startup, we look for opportunities, and sometimes these opportunities, there might be no strict rule around it. Right. So I think in the startup space, people always say, it's either you ask for permission or you beg for forgiveness later, right? But I think it's slightly different in the fintech industry because sometimes the rules are on the wall, and you don't really want to break some of these rules. For example, right? For us, we clearly know the boundaries, but sometimes, let's say, aspiring entrepreneurs will come out and say, okay, I'm gonna start selling the biggest. I want to be the biggest Bitcoin seller in Singapore, right? As of today, brokering crypto without a license is illegal in Singapore. All right, if you looked at papers over the past couple of months, there are cases where some of these illegal crypto brokers have been charged for not abiding the law. So I think, as a rule of thumb, we should always, self-regulate and always be mindful. Even though there are opportunities, we should be, careful and don't get into it blindly. So if you're starting a company, be it in the crypto space or non-crypto space, I think in general you should be asking yourself if it's a project you're going to work on for the next 5 years and still be happy running it. And the other question is, if you want to build that on a blockchain, the question is it best built on a blockchain? Right, I think these are the first two key questions they have to answer before they start the company.
Shaun?
I tend to think of this gray zone as more of a green one, right? I believe that in the early days, we're going to see a lot of opportunities that came up. Whether you are an exchange or you are a wallet provider or you are cross-border kind of like payment services, all these kind of like opportunities were on its own like available for anyone out there to come and take charge of. In this whole space, I would say that there's clearly three kind of like main agendas of like innovation, regulation, and value. And it's very hard to find that sweet spot for all three of them. And that sweet spot is probably like the gray area that we're operating in. Some of the advice I would say that is to consult with the regulators on consultation groups. These are all organized by associations that constantly put together groups to discuss papers that are issued by the central bank or any regulators out there in the region, whether it's in Hong Kong or even in other parts of Southeast Asia. So these are all like good avenues for someone to get involved with. because associations help you to get lobbying rights and help you to get your voices heard to the regulators and people who will be shaping your playground. So I think it's very important to join networks, whether they're going to be meetups or any kind of like physical events, which I believe we all taken it a little for granted. That's why we're all sitting here from our own homes. But these are all groups and places that we can network, meet people, and I guess that for almost everyone out there who have been through a panel or have been speaking at one, you can kind of appreciate the fact that events are probably places where you get to meet people and network a lot more. So, and that has been something that's been not around for the whole of this year. Yeah.
I think the industry also has some interesting news this year, right? So, for instance, a traditional lender like DBS is working on its own digital asset exchange. I mean, I'm curious to hear what are your thoughts about that, because a traditional player getting into such an innovative space, right? So, Tianwei, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think we definitely welcome it, right? I think, like I mentioned earlier on, that this is the space that's still in the infancy, even after 10 years. I think blockchain, crypto, we've been talking about it. The first Bitcoin white paper was like 2009. So it's quite a bit of 10 plus years. But the fact is also quite a lot of basic infrastructure is not quite there. We have caught up quite a bit. I think for a traditional player and DBS coming in is a stamp of approval, right? To tell you that this is something that really of a real insight and real material interest to even a big bank, right? I think that their tune have changed. In the past, they were wanting this is money laundering and this is AML, but I think this is a good approval to tell you that actually not that much. If not, I think a traditional player and MAS will not be allowing like DBS to go in themselves, right? So that's definitely great news. And I think this is where I'm also seeing a lot more innovation in that space, right? Where with more bigger players coming in, a lot of mainstream / companies that are thinking about it will be able to bring in more real-world use case about blockchain, right? Like blockchain is the underlying technology in this space. Like even ourselves, we recently launched our stablecoin project, XSUD, Straight X. So to us, when we were working very closely with our regulators and MES on the consultation stuff, the way we have interpreted it is this is simply just e-money on the blockchain, right? And with Xfers being a licensed e-money player with a major payment institution, we're able to translate that from old school concept into the new world blockchain space, right? And I think this is what we are going to be seeing a trend over the next couple of years or in months, right? More major players will be coming up with a innovative solution or offering related to the blockchain space. And in general, I'm happy to see that. I think this is a good move for the industry, and then a lot of other players like us will benefit as well.
Yusho, what do you think?
I think a lender like DBS coming in is definitely great news for the crypto world, right? The more adoption, the more people crypto, the greater the value of the technology, the greater the value of the impact of the network. But my guess is it's not going to be a major impact to the native crypto industry in Singapore, right? Just like how money changers, remittance providers, they're still very much alive in Singapore. I think the exchange info leaked by them has started the race amongst other banks. And I don't think there's any stopping from here. I guess, which is definitely a net positive thing for the industry. So for DBS launching the exchange, it's definitely great for them. It'll be, but then what will be a game changer is when they start doing what they're supposed to do, which is to open and support, provide banking facilities for companies. Right, they starting their own exchange just means it's an extension of their product offering, increase the top line, and be accountable to shareholders, right? Whereas the latter implies that I am here to support local businesses as a bank, which is the basic function of what a bank's supposed to do.
Shaun, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like in Singapore, when it rains, it pours, right? And the good news is coming, right? Whether it's the DBS getting involved or other kind of like retail investors getting involved in crypto from the other parts of the world, in the US. These are all good signs that the whole space is becoming more and more legitimate. When you have more actors coming in, I always tend to refer this whole economy as a very parallel kind of like financial economy as we have from the traditional world. In the traditional world, you have things like wealth management and private services. in the crypto world, you have things like decentralized finance. So these are all stuff that I feel like has been mirrored, and innovation comes from the extraction of value that we currently see in the real world, in the real traditional financial economy. So when you have big players like DBS coming in, it kind of creates the framework, and it sets a tone for local players to improve, to become almost bank level standard when it comes to compliance, custody, as well as risk management of any kind of like asset class, whether it's their own customer funds or even the company's balance sheet. So this all kind of creates the entire framework and infrastructure for companies here to become more legitimate and to be almost sort of compared to a bank. I guess that's the same approach has been taken by the central bank in Singapore when it comes to issuing out licenses for companies in the next couple of quarters. We are almost all subjected to the same level or the same standards as what I would say a bank would normally do when it comes to compliance, risk management, or even like AML policies. I think these are all good things that are coming into play. So let's hope that the good news keep coming, whether it's going to be the fund that will be issued by the NRF or from banks. We hope to see them coming in flurry. Yeah.
So we have about 4 minutes left for the panel. So let's get to, so everyone gets 1 minute to talk about what are they looking forward to from the industry in the next 12 to 18 months. So Tianwei, go. You have 1 minute.
Sure. I think first maybe a shout out. The Xfers recently launched our SGD dominated straight X stablecoin. I think we have been working very closely with MES since day one and about the consultation, and we're very happy that when we managed to roll out a product that is based on existing regulation, e-money, and then stablecoin is built in travel rule compliance and is to comply to all the MES, PS, NO1 guidelines. And that's been a project of passion and love for the team for the last 2 years itself, and we're very excited about the future related to this. I think the next few months and weeks actually, we'll be very happy to share that for our users and clients out there, they will be hearing a lot of launches of XSGD on our existing client base, on some of their favorite crypto exchanges, and then that will be very exciting for the community itself, and we want to see more of this kind of innovation going on. But another new area I think that will be really exciting is what Shaun actually mentioned, right? Is the DeFi space, right? I think over the last 12 months, we're definitely seeing exciting development in that space, and our blockchain, which is supporting our stablecoin, is both on the Zilliqa and also the Ethereum blockchain. And the activities on those chains have been on the ZilSwap and also on the Uniswap have been happening on its own organically. And we are very excited for what is the future of that, right? The DeFi space is definitely something that we are watching very closely over here. And we are listening to our client, building products around that space. And I follow what Shaun says, I'm going to see a lot of exciting project that mirrors what the traditional finance have been able to support. And we are going to be part of that.
Okay, Yusho, go.
Yeah. Okay. So we started with a long-term vision that crypto will stay. It's going to be an integral part of everybody's lives. And I think to add on to what Shaun was saying earlier, right? A lot of our products are mirroring what the traditional finance guys are doing. So I think we are still in the right direction. We might be at a tipping point once the regulatory piece falls into place. But results are definitely not immediate. It will take 12, 24 months to see the full scale impact of the big launches and licenses issued. So as a company, we do what we can within our control, and what's key for us as a company is to constantly innovate, grow, and manage the business. So I think to sum it up, right, banks and the crypto spaces are converging into the same path. So I think the question for us is, perhaps we should be considering offering maybe like trading equities or offering a product that basically mirrors what the existing banks are doing.
Okay, last but not least, Shaun.
And so I'll conclude with three perspectives. Firstly, coming from the company. So as a company, we do look forward to a lot more growth in the gold sector. I think gold has been one of the outperforming asset class for this year, and we're definitely cautiously optimistic that going forward to next year, we might see some room for volatility, whether it's going to be up or down. I think gold itself as an asset class in Singapore especially has been a key hub for physical storage and transactional activity. The second one is a community perspective. So even in the whole Ethereum group, we've kind of seen a lot of growth and changes in the technology for this year. That we hope to continue for next year itself. And I'm doing actually a fireside chat with Vitalik himself tomorrow if people do tune in to have a hear a lot more about what the Ethereum 2.0 vision would likely be. On the industry perspective, I do see a lot more consolidation taking place for the next 6 to 12 months. And this consolidation has been taking place over the last, I would say, about 12 to 18 months when companies out there have been trying to merge and to collaborate and work further to try to build out the entire ecosystem. So I do think that a lot more central bank spending and government pilots will likely come. And we really hope to see the very first live central bank digital currency that would probably in some part of the world.
Thank you very much. For those who are tuning in, please join me to give some put your hands together virtually for these three gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's extremely early, but I wish everyone have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
And thanks
everyone. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you so much to Kay, Shaun, Tianwei, as well as Yusho. Now we say the early bird catches the worm. Definitely the four of you have brought us a very inspiring session this morning, and we were very grateful for that.